they ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
I'm gonna try to stop looking directly into the camera because, like, my eyes are pretty big and it makes me look sort of creepy. How do you do it, Jenny? Give me your secret. So usually, as someone who aims to write long-form, semi-academic content, I wouldn't jump on a trend like this one. However, I did dedicate approximately my entire life to video essays on Channel Awesome and Pink Floyd's The Wall when I was in middle school, so I really feel like my time has come. I continue to be a big fan of some of Channel Awesome's previous creators. I took a road trip this past summer to see Lindsay Ellis at the library, so big nerd. And like my father before me, I went through a massive Pink Floyd phase. It's family tradition, I gotta. Do these Cookie Monster pajamas complete the facade, or is this what the kids are calling a look? And I think a lot of us changed the channel well before the big controversy, videos linked in description. However, I think it's worth talking about just how wild it is that Doug Walker has gotten away with producing less than brilliant content for a long time without as much repercussion as, say, Logan Paul. And I also think it's startling that so many of us liked his content for a long time, given that his analytical skills are so subpar. At least he acts like they are. So in this video, I'm gonna break down Doug's video where his analysis falls short and why so many people think Doug Walker The Wall is the final straw. Notice how I'm not going to scream even once. Welcome to my channel, and this is my ASMR video criticizing Doug Walker. So let's talk about those early days of Channel Awesome. They were good days, were they not? I mean, I had a lot of fun. We read Cracked. We rated Habbo Hotel. We bitched about plot holes incessantly.
We gladly feasted upon the internet flesh of those who attempted to subdue us.
But it's easy to forget why the mean-spirited, cynical humor appealed to so many people, and honestly, it comes down to the fact that, like, you grow up in the jingoistic post-9/11 era, and it starts to feel real crap real fast. I grew up on the West Coast, but during the height of the Katy Perry California Girl popularity, I was far from. I was more of a wanted to be goth but couldn't quite because goth was no longer super popular kind of girl, so I just listened to a lot of Depeche Mode and Morrissey and cried on the floor, and we can get to the Morrissey Pink Floyd comparisons another time. So Doug's thesis seems to be that teenagers like Pink Floyd because they're egotistical, narcissistic teenagers. He doesn't seem to make hardly any actual points in 40 minutes. It seems to me like Doug rewatched The Wall, was disappointed, and decided to throw it all away because it wasn't exactly as good as he remembered. And that sucks because of all the things I really liked as a teenager, The Wall really does hold up alright actually. It's one of the best-selling albums of all time for a reason. I don't know why the hell Doug Walker thinks he can sing, and somehow it's even worse when he tries to affectate like Roger Waters, who already has kind of an annoying voice. Would you sell your story to Rolling Stone? You know, I love the guy, but I mean, okay, I remember when Doug Walker released his Moulin Rouge review, and everyone just kind of thought it was really annoying, like a phase, but then he just kept doing it over and over, like he did Les Mis and he did Phantom, and both those reviews were terrible as well.
Ah! A quiet moment! Take it off screen!
And if Corey Taylor is there, like, you know, and he's like the singer of a band, you should have just had him sing it. And sometimes Doug's singing is so bad that I can't tell if they're explicitly doing a Pink Floyd parody or not, because he's just not on key. Doug Walker doesn't seem to understand that a color filter does not an atmosphere make, but okay. Why is the camera shaking in literally every shot, dude? The Wall has a beautiful stillness to it, like...
Get in touch with me, Davis, and I will send you this tripod.
So let's quote some lyrics. Pink Floyd made a video devoid of even the slightest bit of subtlety, says Doug. I don't know, Doug, this seems like a weird criticism coming from you, especially considering that The Wall is still being actively analyzed to this day. I'm gonna try to stop doing those faces like Jim Halpert makes on The Office, like... He says it's way too damn angsty for adults to take seriously. But Doug, you've done a video on it, so clearly you take it a little seriously, and also that's you. Like, you just made a reference to Dad's porno stash, that's you. I also think this notion that all teens who loved Pink Floyd are falling into the void is just a complete overgeneralization. Like, some of us were just nerds, you know? I loved Rush growing up, so my transition from Rush to Pink Floyd was a pretty natural prog rock progression, and I didn't have to fall into the void to get there either. I don't understand why he didn't have someone animate Goodbye Blue Sky, but had someone animate the stuff later. Could have just paid them to do both. I don't think you're that broke. High school segment. Historically speaking, the British school system was pretty gnarly and kids got beaten. Jumping from teachers or metaphorical monsters to teachers will want to suck your blood is just painfully lazy. Plus his whole LOL, so high school sucks, grow a damn pair of balls comment.
LOL, so school sucks, grow a damn pair of balls.
Is like the opposite of mental health recognition, considering that mental health and Pink Floyd go hand in hand and that the album was one of the first big pieces of artwork specifically about trauma and mental health and recuperation and addiction and psychosis. Yikes, buddy. So Doug is kind of doing this thing that I see a lot of people doing online that's really, really annoying. He thinks Pink Floyd is criticizing individual teachers instead of the system that enabled harassment of and predation on children. And the thing is, The Happiest Days of Our Lives explicitly addresses this, that the teachers took out of their own marital frustrations on the children. Not to mention that the grammatical error which Doug acknowledges is intentional because the double negative implies that the children do need an education. We don't need no education, we need an education. Also, really? Dude, he wrote a whole song mocking the worldview and trauma of children? Dude, I'm not sure that the Waltz Train thing is like explicitly a Holocaust reference so much as a slaughterhouse one, especially given the animation, where the children get ground up into meat like hogs, you know, the scene with the masks, the scene that you're parodying. The album is also not comparing Pink's struggle in high school to World War II, it's discussing how the war took his father away and predisposed him to loneliness and mental health issues. It's a discussion of intergenerational trauma, and clearly way too mature for you at any age, Doug. Also, yeah, Pink Floyd, the character, is self-absorbed and thinks about his own problems too much. That's kind of why he becomes a Nazi. He oversimplifies his own worldview, and it's important to note that he unintentionally becomes the kind of person who killed his own father. That's a big part of the plot. Have you ever heard of foreshadowing? Or, I mean, for someone defending teachers and saying that kids are stupid, you sure could learn a lot from an English 101 course. Also, I don't want to insult the hard work of the dude who arranged all the instrumentals, but like, there are some really frustrating pieces to listen to. Maybe you should have just gone with a guitarist playing Goodbye Blue Sky instead of whatever the synths are doing here. Doug, how is Goodbye Blue Sky Oscar bait though, honestly? It's just soulful. Like, it wasn't written for the film.
So long, Oscar bait song. Smoke a bong and it will feel less wrong. So long.
Doug seems to think that slow and mopey means pretentious. Dude, if you really have that much of an issue with introspection, maybe don't listen to Pink Floyd at all. Slow songs are like the whole point. Read that, doesn't this remind you of Jesus? Jesus? Bit.
Oh my god, doesn't this remind you of Jesus?
Wow. Doug is gonna absolutely flip when he hears about most of English literature. Franz Kafka's The Hunger Artist is shook. Really love to pick up like a copy of Chronicles of Narnia and just flip through it and play that like, doesn't this remind you of Jesus? Every time Aslan says anything even slightly biblical.
Oh my god, doesn't this remind you of Jesus? I'm like Jesus!
I mean, if you're gonna apply that criticism, you should throw out a lot of literature. In fact, I might even go so far as to say that the Jesus illusion strengthens the literary nature of Pink Floyd The Wall, but whatever. I'm not Harold Bloom, so I won't go there. That's the Bloom's guide I really want. I want Bloom's guide to Pink Floyd The Wall. It's weird to me that he skipped from like Goodbye Blue Sky to Comfortably Numb, all the while complaining about slow songs. Did he completely forget that chunk where Bob Geldof runs around destroying the hotel room, or the flowers having sex, or you know, ooh, I need a dirty woman, ooh, I need a dirty girl.
I'm a nasty woman.
See, Doug, maybe we wouldn't be bored if you parodied the sex and violence. Is that cinema snob, or am I just really that face blind? Buddy, what are you still doing there? You okay? Can somebody in the comments please explain to me why the hell cinema snob is still like, hanging out with these folks. Like, I know Spoonie completely lost his mind, but you were, like, a popular creator, so what's the deal? Also, if Comfortably Numb bores you, you're not who The Wall was written for. You don't have to personally like something to understand that it has artistic merit. I don't know if y'all can see, but this is Captain Singleton by Daniel Defoe. This book is completely insufferable. The most painful, arduous thing I've ever had to read, but I understand that it has sincere artistic merit, and that the modern-day novel would not exist without stuff like Captain Singleton. I mean, it really feels like you completely skipped the meat of the film entirely, Doug. Come on. How can you have any pudding if you don't eat your meats? Okay. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I laughed out loud when I saw Doug. Sorry, it's so funny.
At least I am a showgirl, bitch. Go back to Party City where you belong.
I'm not gonna lie, I laughed out loud when I saw Doug with the words "person you hate" written on his head, because it's just, like, unbelievably on the nose. Like, completely asking for trouble, dude. Wipe that shit off. The In the Flesh segment is so painful too, because it's not just like a criticism of Thatcher, bro. It's the progression of Pink's character because The Wall is completed. You know, The Wall, it's like the thing the movie's about. And I get that you might be trying to dig at those cuts that were popular around the 2016 election, because like you still live in 2016, where like Trump was Pink Floyd. They didn't put his face in there because they didn't like him, Doug. They put his face in there because he was trying to literally build a border wall. A wall. And he's authoritarian. Relatively. I mean, really, Doug? You're literally being all, let's put that Tumblr SJW up against the Facebook wall. As if that's really any different from the song originally saying, like, the Q word. This is pretty hilarious how much Doug looks like Davis Arini here, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I had a pretty good laugh about it.
Davis? What? Why does he get a real picture?
Is the whole, let's take our opinions to social media and use a hashtag thing supposed to be a clapback at Change the Channel? Cause, like, that's easily the dumbest thing in this video. People aren't just raging against an arbitrary authority figure. Doug, you're not an authority figure. They're angry about mistreatment. How dare people talk about how they were mistreated? Again, that doesn't sound too far from the original lyrics. Would you like to see Channel Awesome rule again?
If you think teachers need to stop acting like our parents, subscribe down below, and I will show the police.
Bring the runtime down. Dude, you made a 3-hour movie. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Like, you made a movie the same length as Titanic, and like nothing happened in it. So I'm gonna have to compliment Fenna's animation style in general, but I don't think it's really right for the trial. The thing is, it's the best thing in the video, but I don't know that little monster guy. I haven't seen any Nostalgia Critic stuff in a while, but please don't compare, like, that Uncanny Valley Nightmare, which I think is intentionally an Uncanny Valley Nightmare, to Scarface. Because Scarface animation is brilliant and meticulous and intentional and unforgettable, and it's also really symbolic. That's why they hired him to do Hercules. Like, I don't know what I'm looking at when I'm looking at this. It doesn't symbolize anything, unlike The Wall. And that's perfectly fine, because clearly the animator, Fenna, has a style. And the stuff on their channel is really amazing, however, not really great for the trial. Doug complains that the movie ends on an open vagueness, but the whole point of that open vagueness is because that's what happens when you tear down the wall, when you choose to be a better person, which I kind of hope Doug does sometime soon. You don't know the amends you can make once you've gone that far down the rabbit hole. That's the point. And here's the thing about The Wall, it's good to see yourself in a villain sometimes, because it can be a super effective reminder not to be that guy. And Doug Walker, relating to that particular character, one who enables bad and predatory behavior because he's sad, is, I mean, you're watching this and you think, my god, he has not aged and has also aged so much. Like, he's clearly so tired. He's clearly stuck up on a stage doing a thing he doesn't want to be doing anymore, and it sucked all the life and creativity out of him, and that's crappy. The Wall isn't exactly difficult to understand. You know, the primary message of it, literal children have understood. I understood it when I was like 14, and yet Doug somehow still misses every single point, which makes me think he's doing it on purpose, for his 10-year-old audience, so that the 10-year-olds can feel smart. What I'm trying to say is The Wall ends with Pink being exposed before his peers, so seems apt, don't you think? I miss Lola, and I remember it, even though sometimes I wish I didn't. Also, if you remove this video after all the fits you threw about copyright and parody clause, well...
To harp on this would be too hypocritical, but luckily the film gives me so much more that I can harp on.
When I first tried to watch Doug Walker's The Wall, This is what happened to my computer, so clearly it was trying to protect me.
Ooh.